Awesome. Welcome. Thanks everyone for coming. So yeah, this is the Gord P Design for a Living Big Book study. I usually do these studies about hi Alex, about once every year, but it's been a couple of years and I had the itch to do it. My friend Gord really wanted to do one with me, and so we're good friends. We've grown in recovery. He's got a great message, and so we teamed up and here we are. Just a couple housekeeping things here and some things to know. Um, this podcast is going to be recorded, this big book session, and it's not typically it's not your average big book study. I'm not going through the forewords. We're not going through the prefaces. We're going to touch a little bit on a couple of the forewords. What this is what I've found to be the most effective way to take somebody through the steps to give them a spiritual awakening so that they live a good life, right? So this is Gord's and mine experience as we've lived the book and how we take guys through and what the results are that we've seen. And why I do it the way that I do it is because I've gotten really good results over the years. Jesse P, who a lot of you know, he's my best friend, and he's gotten like serious, awesome results from doing the same thing that I do. So, you can combat whatever we say all you want. That's your right. I would always defer that you listen to your sponsor though. And if you do have discrepancies with what you're learning with your sponsor to what I'm going to tell you or Gord's going to tell you, you can have a good chat with him, but try to listen to your sponsor because we're not here to like interrupt that relationship. We're here to help build it. A couple other things. So the tradition 11, I've had many people in my lifetime say, oh, you break tradition 11. Tradition 11's broken when I admit that I'm in a certain fellowship. I will not tell you guys I'm in a specific fellowship. I will tell you I'm in 12-step recovery. I'm in a program. I may mention NACAAA, whatever A there is for emphasis on what we're doing. But we are not breaking tradition, regardless of what anyone else thinks. A lot of people do not understand the traditions. I'm not saying that I've never broken a tradition, that tradition specifically, because I have unknowingly. But at the end of the day, we all learn as we go. And if you listen to my podcast, you will see all through the episodes, you will almost never hear me say I'm a member, but I know there is a couple in there in the early years. So I'm going to turn it over to Gord, and he's going to introduce himself, and then we'll kind of follow our little script here, and then we'll get this thing rocking and rolling.
Hey guys, I'm Gord. What's going on? Thanks for coming out. I wasn't sure if we'd be alone here tonight or not, so it's nice to see people here. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Yeah, it doesn't sound like my mic's on, does it? I have to talk into it like this. All right. Well, maybe we can turn it up at some point. But yeah, like Billy said, I'm not here to be a poster child for any fellowship. Anything that I talk about tonight is my opinion and my opinion alone. Has it worked into my life? Yeah. Has the stuff I've talked about tonight or the next coming weeks something that comes from my own experience? 100%. But take it or leave it. I'm not anybody's poster child for anything. I'm just somebody like you trying to find my way. So with that, I'm looking forward to doing this with you all. So thanks very much for showing up. Billy, I think we were going to talk about ride matching people, weren't we?
Yeah, ride matching volunteers. We'll start with the volunteers. So we're going to need volunteers to help with the study as it goes on. So maybe at halftime or at the end of the meeting or something, we'll do a list. I got a couple notebooks here. Oh, before I talk about that, I have a whole bunch of notepads and pens. There's some really deadly notepads in there, and then there's your regular notepad. So if anyone needs a notepad or a pen, have at her. It's all there for free. But we will need volunteers to 2 roamers. The roamers are going to be a guy who watches the coffee and watches the door, because we have a lot of people kind of coming in. Right now, it's going to be Tommy. Who is?
Brad's got it going on.
Okay, Brad's got it going on tonight. But if anyone can like volunteer, like even if it's for one session, to like watch the door, walk down to the bathrooms, check around, make sure, you know, no one snuck in and is using or something, you know, just kind of help us keep an eye on what's going on here. Keep an eye on the coffees and the liquids, and we'll try to keep those flowing. We got coffee at the back, all the stir sticks. If you're a decaf drinker, there's decaf back there too. We will also need a roamer who's going to carry this mic around from time to time. It's a cordless mic. We'll take questions from the floor, and we'll use a microphone if possible, when possible. We will also have our Zoom people. So just so you guys know, we have a pretty good amount of Zoom people on too right now. And we also have one of the federal penitentiaries is streaming in here also. And we're hoping that maybe we can get another federal penitentiary online in the near future, because God knows the message needs to be carried to those types of places as well. And welcome to the guys from Drumheller Pen. It's an awesome pleasure to have you here. And all of our friends on Zoom, it's also a pleasure to have you here. I can't read that.
Tell the unidentified people on Zoom to change their names if they can.
Yeah, anyone who's on Zoom that has an unidentified name, we have to be real careful for Zoom bombers. So we have to have a high security on Zoom. And to a point that I was making earlier, if you guys are going to share the study information, try to do it, you know, with people you know are solid. Don't post it on big Facebook websites and things like that, because we've had Zoom bombers in the past and they really disrupt this meeting. And then we got to change the passcodes. And, you know, I've seen like a video of a guy getting his head cut off. And it was like from Afghanistan at some point in history, right? But it was there on the screen and people were like disturbed and seen pornography, and like it's pretty crazy. And they blast horns and yell, and like they usually come in and as a small group and they just take over the meeting. So we got to be real careful with that, because we don't want to be changing passcodes and stuff like that. Anybody need a ride home after this? Everyone has a ride home? Okay, so what we try to do at our studies also to get people connected and, you know, fellowship is like, if you need a ride home, in the beginning of the meeting, we'll ask. And if you do, put your hand up and we'll try to match you with somebody who can give you a ride. And then over the course of the study, you guys can all figure out who needs rides, pick each other up, have meeting spots, that kind of thing, and just kind of carpool and help each other out here, right? Gord, anything?
No, I think if anyone wants to be a part of the monthly or biweekly newsletter that he's going to soon be releasing, then you can come up and give Tamara your email address. Is that how we're doing this? Or
we have a piece of paper with the name and then email section, but it hasn't been printed. So I'll use a notebook, but I will be, as part of my business, doing monthly newsletters with recovery information, blah, 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 blah. It's only going to come out every now and then, like once every 2 months or something. But if anyone wants to be a part of that, you're more than welcome to. Just come up and give me your name and your email in a book. And yep.
Excellent. So, wanna pray?
If you want to be on WhatsApp and you have my number, text me and I'll send you the link for WhatsApp. Jules and Tamara, I don't know how you can let anyone on Zoom know how to connect with the WhatsApp group chat. And that's the best way to kind of, for us to communicate if a Zoom bombing does happen or if changes happen. And one of the changes that nobody knows about, including Gord, is we will not be running on the session. I think it's the 26th is a Thursday. We're going to take that one off because, you know, it's the 26th and no one wants to be here really. And I know a few people would, and I would run it, but my family would be mad at me. They get mad enough at me for doing all this stuff all the time anyway.
Yeah, that's a part of it. Until they realize that it's helping us become better people and it's beneficial. So are we at that praying portion of the meeting yet, Bill?
One more thing before that, if you want to email, you email to the udrcast@gmail.com. That is our email. We will be sending around a basket and a virtual basket also, to recover costs for the money that I've put in and to help like buy more big books and do things like that. Right now I got about, 2,500 to 3,000 into this study, but mind you, a lot of that is my own technology. Like I got the posters and stuff, so that doesn't really matter. But the coffee, $500 worth of coffee, and we're going to be going through the coffee and, oh yeah, another thing, and you don't have to donate. Don't feel like you're obligated to like put in this basket. That's not what I'm saying. But if you feel like you want to and you can, feel free, because I know that I'll use the money for something good. Okay. Also, we're going to do some cool things for the church and for Sober Crew. So we're going to have on the next session, we're going to have 2 tables at the back for donations. One will be for food. One will be for clothing. So if you have any old clothes or you have any old food, not old food, food, good food, new food. Huh? Yeah. 10-4.
Yeah, that's better.
So we're going to set it up in the corner and then we will move it to where Tamara, thanks Tamara, she's been a huge help for us here. Her and Brad and John, our helper at the back, he helped us set everything up today.
Good. Hey guys, come on in.
Oh, we have royalty just arriving. Robbie Daniels and Sam Biggity and Kim Cuthill. Royalty is in the house. Everyone give them a hand. But no, we're gonna, speaking of Sober Crew, Robbie is the face of Sober Crew. So we're gonna try to raise clothing and food for Sober Crew and for the church. And one thing I'd like to put out there, the guys in the penitentiary are using printed off sheets. The penitentiary is not able to buy them books, if you can believe that. So if anyone wants to contribute to buy, a box of books, a box of 20, come see me and we'll do something separate for that. Each book is about $20. So if anyone wants to contribute to that, let me know, and then I can get it to Sarah, who is on the other side of the screen on Teams. We have 2 cameras, one's for Teams, one's for Zoom. Teams is for the penitentiary because it's high security. So Sarah will accept the books if I can get them raised, even if we just get books. It doesn't have to be, the cash. But I figured, $20, $20 a book, take them a box, let them do what they can. And the reason why I like books is because the solution for my life lies within this blue book. It's not you, it's not Gord, it's not, it's my relationship I build with God through the book. So it's really important that we always have the book and we use the book so that when those guys or you guys are alone and you have nothing, no person to lean on, you have this to lean on, and the directions of your life lie within this book. So it's really important for me to have those guys get like actual books because this book's so life-changing. Okay. Any more blabber?
I want to pray.
Yeah. Okay, let's just look, make sure we haven't missed anything. Anyone have any questions? Okay.
You all want to pray
Can I
too,
say
don't you?
something? Can you ask Tamara? Can you ask them if I can say something?
Julie wants to say something. Hey, Julie.
Oh
Hey.
yeah, shout out to Julie. She's in New Westminster. She's one of our Zoom administrators. She's totally been helpful to this thing getting going too.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of moving parts getting this thing going.
Rock star. Go ahead, Julie.
I just wanted to, just in case anybody didn't get a chance to read the rules there, I do need somebody to identify themselves. You've tried to come in 4 times. Google Pixel, I need you to tell me your name, please. And if we have questions for Bill or Gord, we're going to use the raise the hand feature. Raise your hand. If you have something quick, as you like what page we're on, or something you think someone else can answer, feel free to put it in the chat, and we can just kind of help each other go along with this, if you don't mind. Thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Jules.
Okay. So Gordo,
God, today help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about my own recovery, so that I may have an open mind and a new experience with all of these things. Please help me see the truth. Amen.
okay, let's set aside prayer. We're going to say that every study. Now, Gord and I are each going to pray our own prayers, and then we want two people from the gallery to say a prayer. Can I have two volunteers? Vern, one. One more. Did I see your hand? No, we got one. Okay. Okay, we got two. I'm going to go first. Gord's going to go second, and then we'll go to our two in the gallery. And for anyone else, there's smudge in the back corner too. There'll be smudge every session that we're doing here too. Aí, victimaginal. Cause you victimaginal. Kisa gampi sam victimaginal. Neil gate way seen victimaginal. Sana pu yuten victimaginal. Okawi mau victimaginal aí. Creator, grandmothers and grandfathers of all directions. I thank you for this beautiful day today. I thank you for the opportunity to be here today, to live this life, to have respect for life, for my own life and other people's life, that gift of life that I never respected before. I ask for a new experience today, Creator, in my friends and in myself and in you. I ask for your wisdom and your words, that you give me what to say today. You show me where to go in the study, and just give me your guidance, Creator, so that I'm able to heal a little bit more and to maybe help somebody else and inspire people to do things that are hard. Thank you, Creator. Hi.
God, I come before you a humble addict, living a beautiful life that I probably don't deserve. And I ask that you continuously remind me of my place, and that this is grace that I live in. I humbly ask you to speak through me, and I humbly ask you to continuously remind me that it is not my message that comes out of my mouth, it's yours. I want you to remind the people that are here listening, on Zoom listening, and in the pens listening, everyone that's hearing this message, that they know that it's your message and it has nothing to do with me. I'm your humble servant. Amen. Father, we come to you, Lord, with humility. We ask that you open our ears and our hearts, gain something tonight that we can pack into the street of life. Just show us, Lord, where we can serve others and serve you. We just ask for safe travels on the way home from here tonight. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Christian.
Amen.
Another thing that I forgot, the church is going to give me a list of announcements. They have many volunteer opportunities here. Once we figure that out with Brad, we will announce that. And then if anyone wants to volunteer for whatever opportunities, you're more than welcome to. Okay, I guess we are going to get going here. Okay.
All right.
So we're going to be in the big book. We may or may not be using the 12 and 12 a little bit today, not sure, but for sure we're in the big book. We're going to start and forward to the first edition. And this is exactly how I take guys through the book, at least. I know Gord's kind of catering a little bit to my style, a little bit. Robbie, if you need a book, you're going to have to Google it. We're out of books. If anyone has an extra book, hook up Robbie. And if anyone needs a book, you can go on the AA website and punch in AA Big Book, Doctor's Opinion PDF, and it should come up. So we're on the forward to the first edition. There's only one paragraph that I read here, and I don't even read the full paragraph, but there's a good reason why I start here. So, everyone ready? Forward to the first edition. This forward as it appeared in the first printing of the first edition in 1939. So there's been 4 editions printed of the big book. This was the forward from the very first edition. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely, circle precisely, how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think that the account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. Okay, going back to the top. Recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered. What does the word precisely mean? Anyone? Exactly. Okay. So anyone that knows me knows I'm a stickler about the directions in the big book. Okay. So what it's saying here is this book will show you precisely how to recover. And if anyone knows this illness, you know that we have an allergy of the body and we have an inability to pick up a drink. But what drives that? Anyone? Huh? Spiritual malady. The spiritual malady drives my inability to say no to the drink. When we talk about powerlessness of step 1, everybody, when I go to meetings, it's like, oh, fuck, the powerlessness is I put one in my body and I set off the allergy, then I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, okay. You're powerless when you put one in your body or whatever. You take a hit of crack or meth and you can't stop, right? That's one thing. But why do you put it in your body when you're sober? When you already know what's going to happen, life's going to let's turn to shit. You're going to hurt people. You're going to do break and enters. You're going to, take advantage of people. Why do you put it in your body the first time anyway, when you've already experimented 100 different times, 1,000 different times? That powerless is much more important than the allergy. Because if I don't put it in my body, I will never set off the allergy. But so many people do not understand the disease, like it just said here. It said, with help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. How about let's start with the fucking alcoholic first? Most alcoholics don't even really understand what they're dealing with, right? Why is it that we put it in our body sober? Because the spiritual malady makes me unable to say no to the drink and I pick up the drink. That's why. And why I'm talking about this is because where it says precisely how we have recovered, does anyone know what the word recovery means by definition? Right. We're all in recovery, but not one person can tell you what it means. Okay, you're on the right track. It means the process of getting well after an injury or an illness. That's what recovery is. Well, if I have a spiritual malady, that's what I need to recover from. And if I recover from the spiritual malady, which looks like resentment, which looks like anger, which looks like judgment, which looks like all of these things that we'll learn more about as the study goes on, then I never need to drink again. I never need to use drugs and alcohol again. Because for the real deal alcoholic, the drugs and the alcohol are my medicine for the shit that I won't deal with. Whether I think that or not, whether you think that or not, doesn't really matter because that's the facts. So I'm just going to keep going. So precisely, exactly, directions, how we have recovered is the main purpose of the book. That's the main purpose of the book, right? There's another spot in the We Agnostics that says lack of power is my dilemma. I don't have the power. And it says, you know, I need a higher power. And that's the main purpose of the book, to enable me to find the power that will solve my problem. The book is here to get you in touch with God, okay? Or creator, or higher power, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But really what it does is it gets you in touch with you, man, with who you are. So you're no more selling out yourself for people pleasing and validation and all this other shit that we do, right? And we quit lying to ourselves. So we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication is necessary. What does that mean? Anyone? What it means is we hope these pages, I'm going to say primarily step 1, but it's all of it. But I'm really going to focus on step 1 right now. We hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication is necessary. Meaning you don't have to go back out and use and do more research.
Countless failed attempts.
Right. Because if you go through the step 1 literature properly and you're willing to do this as a process, you will see yourself and what an alcoholic is. And once you understand what you're dealing with, then you don't need to go out there, come into the room and go, oh, I'm an alcoholic. Fuck, you could be going, I'm an alcoholic in the rooms of whatever program it is for fucking 30, 40 years. Like Gord, 27 years this guy went in and out. So you don't have to prove it anymore out there. Step 1 does a great job in this book of showing you what an alcoholic is. And then once you know, you're fucked. That's it.
I just want to add, does everyone know what malady means? Sickness, exactly. Yeah. So that makes a little more sense when Bill talks about recovery being getting better from an illness. We suffer from a spiritual illness, a hole inside of me that I can't seem to fill. So it makes sense that lack of power is my dilemma. It makes sense that the solution to my problem is spiritual. It makes sense that malady, that sickness, that spiritual sickness causes me to constantly want to change the way that I feel. Because without any power greater than me, without any love for myself, I never want to be feeling the way that I feel. Drugs and alcohol allowed me to change that for a time. And then that quit working. This is the main purpose of this book, and nothing really in the program of this book has changed in over 80 years. Millions of people have gone on to live happy, recovered lives just from what's in this book. That is incredible. That's all I have.
Yeah. And does anyone been to therapy for addictions here? Did your therapist tell you to go and do a 12-step program? No. because they don't know what works. They're mandated by a system that doesn't understand spirituality. And when you think of the word psychology, does anyone know what the actual word means? The study of mind and spirit. But when you go see a psychologist, he only will give you the information on your mind. So it's why? Because that's what he's taught to do. And the other thing he's taught to do is not to share his own experiences with you. He's taught to separate himself from you. What do we do when we do helping each other? I'm sharing my whole life with you, my experiences with you. We're talking about mind, body, and spirit. And that's what works. But in mainstream society, they do. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. Some of that stuff doesn't work for like a heavy drinker or a moderate drinker. But for a real alcoholic, anything short of a spiritual experience, you won't stay sober. And the other thing about a relationship with God or Creator, you can believe in Creator or God all the fuck you want. That ain't enough to keep you sober either. You have to have a disciplined way of life that allows God to work in and through you. And that's what this book, like Gord says, we have it right here. It does it. If I follow the processes, it just happens automatically. And why my studies are so successful or well attended, let's say, is because I'm really good at giving you the directions hidden between all the fluffy philosophical shit. That's the deal, the directions, right? And when we get to step 3, we'll talk more about those directions. Okay, so we're going to flip forward to the second, do a quick little read here of a couple things, and then we'll get to the doctor's opinion. Okay, Gordo.
So on the second page of the forward to the second edition, it starts talking about Bill and his trip to Akron. And it goes as follows. The broker, Bill, had gone to Akron on a business venture which had collapsed, leaving him greatly in fear that he might start drinking again. He suddenly realized that in order to save himself, he must carry his message to another alcoholic. That alcoholic turned out to be the Akron physician. Has everyone heard of the story of Bill standing in the lobby of the hotel, looking at the bar, going, that's looking pretty good, and realized in that moment and looked at the directory and started making phone calls? Did you guys hear that story? That's what it's talking about right now. This physician had repeatedly tried spiritual means to resolve his alcoholic dilemma, but had failed. So Dr. Bob, that is, okay, tried many, many spiritual means to resolve his alcoholic dilemma, but had failed. But when the broker, Bill, gave him Dr. Silkworth's description of alcoholism and its hopelessness, it's very important, and its hopelessness, the physician began to pursue the spiritual remedy for his malady with a willingness he had never before been able to muster. He sobered, never to drink again up to the moment of his death in 1950. This seemed to prove that one alcoholic could affect another as no alcoholic could, non-alcoholic could, excuse me. It also indicated that strenuous work, one alcoholic with another, was vital to permanent recovery. That's pretty powerful. You guys feel that when I read that? Like, this is the guy that started this program before this book was written. And he already thought, was it God? I think so. He already thought that one alcoholic talking to another was going to be the solution. It was going to be a part of the solution that got us better. And when he was in desperate times, he sought out another alcoholic and started talking to him. And what it goes on to say is that he gave Dr. Silkworth's description, which is, we suffer from this malady. We have a physical allergy. He talked to him all about all of that. explained it to him, but also told him about himself and all the examples of how he had failed along the way. Because Bill was in treatment a few times. He was one of those hopeless, desperate alcoholics too, right? And he didn't get it on the first run like me. And in this ditch effort, helping another alcoholic ended up changing the path of time, really. Epoch in the annals, isn't that what it says? That historical time. It changed history, these two guys talking. And to me, that has to be divinity in some sort. Strenuous work, though. You notice that in the next. This seemed to prove that one alcoholic could affect another as no non-alcoholic. Why does it say that? Why does it say no non-alcoholic? Because it also explained just before that Bob had tried many other avenues spiritually, like with churches and groups like that. He tried all of these different avenues to get help, and it didn't work. So they thought that they would mention it again, that working with another alcoholic was vital. It was vital to this whole thing. And it could lead to permanent recovery. But it talks about strenuous work. I find that very interesting. What do you think about that, Bill?
I think a couple things. Where it says that Dr. Bob had tried other spiritual ways, but it had failed. Because for the alcoholic to just go to church, typically that doesn't work. For the alcoholic to just go home and say some prayers, it doesn't really work. So these spiritual approaches for the alcoholic, they just don't work without deeper type of aspects put in there. That's what the 4 and the 5 and the 6 and the 7 and the 8 and the 9 do, right? So the theory of God, I'll say, the theory of God is not enough for an alcoholic. A theory of God might be enough for a heavy drinker or a moderate drinker. And if your best friend is a heavy drinker and he just goes to church and says some prayers and he's sober and doesn't drink anymore, but you can't seem to get it, well, you might not be the heavy drinker that he is. So I wouldn't compare yourself to his method of recovery. I need a different method. But first I need to go through step 1 and understand who I am and what I am first, right? And then the other thing Gord talked about there was one alcoholic helping another alcoholic. How can my mom fucking help me? She doesn't even know what goes on in this crazy thing, right? When I first came to the program and I sat in a chair and you guys were talking about my brain, I was like, that guy gets me. That girl gets me. And then that was a bond that I was like, wow. And then I started realizing that alcoholics think differently. Like, I always kind of say it like this. Okay, when you're driving your car and you're doing like 100 kilometers an hour down the highway and let's say you're going to Banff and your car's just going, wah. That's a normal person's ego. Now, when you're driving down the Banff and you're going to pass somebody and you go, wah, wah, that's our ego. And our ego is like going, wah, wah, way more than a normal person's. And really what that is, it's our instincts are on rampage. We're always trying to fill that. Gord talked about the void. We're doing things, well, we don't know that. You don't know it when you're just living life. That's why this program's so important and so necessary, because once we become aware of that wah-wah, we can start spotting it, right? And that's where we bring God in, right? But that's where the theory of God won't help the wah-wah if it's just a theory of God. It doesn't work like that, right? So that part, an alcoholic understands an alcoholic. And the other thing for an alcoholic, the service part of my life to you helps keep me sober. So that's important. So as I serve you, that keeps me sober, keeps me connecting to my own God within me. Because when I connect to the God in your heart, Dave, you're connecting to the God in my heart. And then as we connect with men, other fellow men and women, like in this way of recovery, we're actually connecting more to ourselves and more to God. The further I get away from you is the further away from God I get also. So, yeah. Okay, next, we're going to flip to XX, couple pages up, forward to the second. You want to take it or me?
Go ahead.
Okay. Halfway through that paragraph, actually, we'll just kind of start at the top. AA grew by leaps and bounds. For there were two principal reasons: the large number of recoveries and reunited homes. These made their impressions everywhere. This is very important. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapses. And among the remainder who stayed on with AA, they showed him signs of improvement. So basically what it's saying is, if you come to the program and you really want to quit and you follow the directions that are contained in our literature, 50% of you will stay sober first crack. 25% of you will stay sober after a few relapses. And then the other 25% aren't likely to stay sober, but their lives will dramatically increase in quality. And when I look around recovery today, and the treatment centers can tell me all they want, and the government of Alberta can tell me all the stats that they want, and everyone can give me the stats, but I'm on the ground. I see what's fucking going on, and I see that the stats aren't what they say in the newspapers or on TV or on the treatment center monthly reports. I don't believe that they're as good as they want to make it seem like, honestly. I see out of 100, 5 people stay sober for a year-ish. Out of 100 people who come here, about 5 stay sober for 1 year. Out of those 5, about 2.5 of them stay sober for 5 years. That's what I see. You can have your own data. Why is that? When the book here says 50% should get sober at once and 25% with a few relapses, that's 75% success rate right there. Anyone have an idea why? Yeah, go ahead. Diluted message. Can you elaborate on that?
On the wall, just getting a lot of fluff, as you would say, I guess. Real direction.
Okay, so for our online listeners, Vern was saying that he believes, because you've been around a long time, right? How long? So 10 years you've been in and out. 5 treatment centers. Okay. And now you're kicking ass. Why?
God into my life, not only as a theory, but I put it in everything that I do. I do my best at everything that I do, and then let God take the rest of the wheel from there.
Okay. You do the best at everything you do. You put God number 1 and you try to let him take the wheel, not theoretically, but actually. And sponsoring. Number 1, sponsoring. Okay. So my opinion on why the rooms have such a low success rate is because exactly what we just heard. The rooms are loaded with watered down bullshit. Many meetings do not even have a step on the wall. They're 3-topic discussion meetings. And for an alcoholic who wants to share his opinion on everything, you put 3 topics on there and let us go at it. Right? So then you get a new guy coming in, and this is what he thinks the program is, and he's listening to all you all, and fucking then he's drunk again. And he does this for 10 years. And then he goes, this doesn't work for me. But what I've noticed, and some of what I'm going to say through my study, please don't take it as arrogance, and maybe some of it is that I can't see, but it's very important because my experience as a sponsor is very valuable. Jesse, my friend, I use his experience too, and it's very valuable. Jesse gets 60 to 70% success rates as a sponsor. I get 60 to 70% success rates as a sponsor because I'm showing people the exact directions in the book, and I'm not giving them my own opinions on what I think honesty means. I've looked up the word rigorous, means accurate, doesn't mean I'm going at it. Resolutely has meaning. Like, all of these words have a lot of deep meaning. And when they're delivered properly, the person can take the information properly. And then in some ways, there's no like wiggle room in some of this stuff. For a step 10 process, there's no fucking wiggle room. It's a process. You want to do it your own way, you're going to get less than average results, man. But if you do a step 10 as it's directed, you'll get significant results. Your life will change, and you won't ever drink again if you follow what I'm saying. So that's why I believe that the rates in regular recovery are so low, because the message isn't there and other modalities don't have the house cleaning components that we do, including, and I'm going to piss off a lot of my Native brothers and sisters, including my Native culture. It does not have the house cleaning components that the 12 steps have, which is vital. Because with our First Nations people, there's a lot of pain and concreted hurt there. That what I'm supposed to go work that out with Creator. It's so thick and so hard. I can't just go work that out with Creator. I need somebody on the journey with me, helping chip at that concrete so the light of reason can shine behind. That's why two people walking hand in hand is so powerful in what we do here. Anything else on that?
Yeah, I got to put my 2 cents in a little bit. I mean, I also have written in my book 3 to 5% success rate, and stop studying and talking about the big book in meetings. I've got all that written down because that's what my sponsor took me through. Bill might not like that I say this right now, but who the fuck am I to say what success is? I read the book. That's what we need to take away from what we're talking about. The message is here in the book. It's not about talking about our problems. It's not about the fluff, like you said, Vern. It's about the design for living. We've got to focus more on that. However, it's not up to me to judge who's a success. Who's to say that there isn't? Hey, it's I haven't seen Shay in a long time. Hi, Shay. It's not up to me to decide what's success. What happens when I am, taking a guy through the book and I read the doctor's opinion with him, and then maybe I read there is a solution and he's off on another tangent? Because believe me when I tell you that happens often. But maybe 5 years from now, when that guy's sitting in his basement suite with a 9mm on the coffee table and he's thinking about putting it in his mouth, but he remembers that guy, and maybe he doesn't even remember my name, but he remembers that guy took a few nights and read some book with him. And maybe he's going to give that one more try. Can't we call that a success? So I just want, I don't want to take away from what you're saying, brother, but I don't think it's a failure. Keep coming. That's just get here and let God do the work. But yeah, once we become, really into it, we got to focus on the design for living. That's where the beauty happens for sure.
No, and I agree. I agree. Every step we take is a success, but unless you're disturbed, sometimes you're not moving. So I can't play all aspects of this, right? I play my role, and my role's pretty forward and straight, and Gord will play the balanced role, and I still love him. But it's true, right? Not everyone gets it first time. You know, shit's got to click when it clicks. Some people's subconscious fears aren't ready to fucking move in the direction. Conscious and unconscious fears actually dictate where we're going to go and what we're going to do. And everyone's at different levels and have different issues, and it's complex, right? So I never want to discredit anyone from the success that they have moving forward at all. But I have a job that I do in these things, and I've done it very successfully, and not everyone likes my approach either, and that's totally fine. But I believe everybody has we need everybody. We need everybody's message. We need everybody's way of doing what they do, because somebody's going to click with somebody else all the time, right? I know Chris's message, he needs to get it to somebody else. Dave, somebody else. Vern, somebody else. Like, everybody has to get it to somebody else with their own gifts, whatever those are, right? I just try to use mine. And do I use it? I use it the best that I can. That I know, which is why I don't really apologize for a lot, because I know I'm really trying to do my part to help, right? And I know Gord's really got an attractive message in the rooms because of his compassion, and he talks like way calmer than me. And like, that works for a lot of people, right? He gets to speak, he speaks at a lot of conferences, keynote speaker and stuff like that, because of the way he is, right? And that's a beautiful thing.
It's
right?
just different, right?
Yeah.
God is everything or he is nothing. For me, it's everything. So I wasn't trying to, speak against what Bill's saying. It's just there's more than one point of view. There's always more than one point of view. And like you say, we reach different people. You're going to sponsor guys that won't listen to me. That's just a fact. My sponsee is going to sponsor guys that wouldn't listen to me, even though it's the same message, right? It's just the way that it is. God is everything.
Okay. So before we get into the doctor's opinion, why don't we take our first break of our season? And it'll be, how long? 15?
Oh, a break? All right. I never take a break. Good.
So we're going to start at 10 minutes after 8, like on the money. So have a coffee, have a smoke. We'll get a smoke can out there for the butts next time. But for now, put them in your pocket. We'll get back to the podcast in a second. The opinions expressed on this podcast are solely of the guest sharing or myself. We have no affiliation with any 12-step or recovery program. And if you do like our work, please consider visiting BILLWARDLIFE and supporting what we do. Now back to the podcast. Okay, let's get right at it. We're going to just jump right into the doctor's opinion here. And I'll kick it off. Okay. Doctor's opinion. We of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in this book. Convincing testimony must surely come from medical men who have had experience with the suffering of our members and have witnessed our return to health. A well-known doctor, chief physician at a nationally prominent hospital, specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction. Oh, shit. Hang on. Sorry. I got to turn on my mic here. Oh, no, it's on. A well-known doctor, chief physician at a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction, gave Alcoholics Anonymous this letter. So I just want to qualify the doctor. So the doctor was not a member of AA or any 12-step program. He was a doctor who spent his whole life watching alcoholics and addicts. He worked at one of the most prominent hospitals called the Towns Hospital in New York. And Bill W., the author of this literature, was one of his patients. And so the doctor watched and watched and watched, and he collected data. And without the problem, we can never find a solution. So why the doctor's opinion is so important is because the doctor really found out what the problem was for alcoholics, because he had been watching us for so many years. And then once Bill W. wrote this book, he needed the doctor's opinion in here to explain about the allergy. The main component of the doctor's opinion is about the allergy. There's a little bit of the spiritual malady in here too, but the main component is the doctor is responsible for coming up with the opinion that we alcoholics have an allergy to alcohol, which this chapter will illustrate. So he wrote this letter. To whom it may concern, I have specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years. In late 1934, I attended a patient who, though he had been a competent businessman, this is Bill W., of good earning capacity, was an alcoholic of type I had come to regard as hopeless. In the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. As part of his rehabilitation, so this is very important, as part of Bill W.'s rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to other alcoholics, impressing upon them that they must do likewise with still others. This has been the basis of a rapidly growing fellowship of these men and their families. This man and over 100 others have appeared to have recovered. I personally know scores of cases who are of the type whom other methods had failed completely. These facts appear to be of extreme medical importance because of the extraordinary possibilities of rapid growth inherent in this group. They may mark a new epoch in the annals of alcoholism. These men may well have a remedy for thousands of such situations. You may rely absolutely on anything they say about themselves. Yours truly, William D. Silkworth. Okay. I'm going to stop and go back to the previous page. The first paragraph, 3 lines down, it talks about the plan of recovery. Does anyone know what the word plan means? Definition. Pardon? That is the plan, but the word plan by definition, what does it mean?
An
Yeah,
outline.
basically,
by
I have it written here,
description?
and it's a detailed proposal to achieve a goal. That's what a plan is. It's a detailed proposal to achieve a goal. So when they built this building, they had a blueprint. And the blueprint is within millimeters on every measurement and all the things, because everything needs to be square so they can build the building properly. If something's out of square or it's off on the wrong degree, you get a crooked building and then things don't fit together. So we have a plan, we have a blueprint of recovery, a detailed proposal, which is full of directions in the book. Okay. Going down to second last paragraph on the page. In the course of Bill W.'s third treatment. So this paragraph will reiterate itself in about a page and a half. So it'll say the same thing, just differently. In the course of Bill W.'s third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. So because Bill W. was a patient of Dr. Silkworth, like Gord said earlier, had taught Bill a lot about his illness, specifically about the allergy. So the doctor would keep giving Bill this information. And you also got to remember, Bill W. was also part of the Oxford group, the Oxford Foundation. The Oxford Foundation was a 6-step recovery program that was designed by Christians and only had 6 steps. So because Bill was a part of that and he learned from Dr. Silkworth, he was starting to put some pieces together of what might work for a plan of recovery. So as part of Bill W.'s rehabilitation, as part of his, Vern said it, as part of Vern's rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to other alcoholics. I'm going to share my experience as an alcoholic and an addict. I'm going to share my life's experiences with you. I'm going to share me picking up a drink and me not being able to say no to a drink at a certain point. All these things that are contained in the book, impressing upon them. And I'll use Vern as the example because he came to me a couple different times and I said, dude, What about fucking sponsorship, bro? And he wouldn't do it. And I kept saying, you're missing the one key component. You can do all the other stuff, bro. And I'm not saying everyone needs to sponsor. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. I would like to say that, but that's where the gold is. You know, the 12 steps will give you a lot, but the 12 step will give you everything. But once he started sponsoring, that's when his life changed, right? Because I watched him grow, and I've seen many other people do exact same thing as him. And not only just not drink and do drugs, like be able to understand self, be able to understand what's wrong within me, the void that Gord in Gord we trust. But that void that Gord spoke about, that it's in me. And as we sponsor, we are able to see that in us because we can see it in you. And as I give you direction as a sponsor, now I hold myself to a higher standard, because if I'm not going to do what I'm telling you to do, then I'm a hypocrite. And I don't want to be that. And that's part of, like, there's so many things through sponsorship. But impressing upon them, they must. The word must is underlined in my book, because it's, when you look it up, it's like a requirement. Likewise with still others. And this has become the basis. What's basis mean? It means foundation of a rapidly growing fellowship of these men and their families. This man and over 100 others appeared to have recovered. So at the time that the book was written, there was only about 100 alcoholics who did this, and they were all doing very well. Okay. And then I'll finish with this. I personally know scores of cases who were of the type whom other methods had failed completely. So the doctor who's worked with alcoholics his whole life has seen scores of cases where the psychology and the psychiatry and just going to church, all these other methods failed completely. And this is part of the data that he collected, right? That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Bill's covered it. So we'll move on. The physician who, at our request, gave us this letter has been kind enough to enlarge upon his views in another statement which follows. In this statement, he confirms what we have suffered. Alcoholic torture must believe that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind. It did not satisfy us to be told that we could not control our drinking just because we were maladjusted to life, that we were in full flight from reality, or were outright mental defectives. These things were true to some extent. In fact, to a considerable extent with some of us. But we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. The doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. As laymen, our opinion as to its soundness may, of course, mean little, but as ex-problem drinkers, we can say that this explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account. Though we work out our solution on the spiritual as well as an altruistic plane, we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is very jittery or befogged. More often than not, it is imperative that a man's brain be cleared before he's approached, as he has then a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer. The doctor writes, the subject presented in this book seems to me to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with alcohol addiction. I say this after many years' experience as medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country treating alcoholic and drug addiction. There was, therefore, a sense of real satisfaction when I was asked to contribute a few words on a subject which is covered in such masterly detail in these pages. We doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology was of urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. What with our ultra-modern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. Many years ago, one of the leading contributors to this book came under our care in this hospital. And while here, he acquired some ideas which he put into practical application at once. Later, he requested the privilege of being allowed to tell his story to other patients here. And with some misgiving, well, we consented. The cases we have followed through have been most interesting. In fact, many of them are amazing. The unselfishness of these men, as we have come to know them, the entire absence of profit motive, and their community spirit is indeed inspiring to one who has labored long and wearily in this alcoholic field. They believe in themselves and still more in the power which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. I'll stop there, I think, Bill.
Okay, Giver.
There's so much information in this for me. In these 2 pages, it's almost too much. So he introduces the fact that that the physical allergy meaning. So some of you may wonder why we use the word allergy. Does everyone understand that concept? Yeah, because I know when people first started telling me I had an allergy to alcohol, I was like, no, I don't. I can outdrink you any day, and that will be no problem for me whatsoever. You know, like a peanut allergy, you know, you could die from it, but in fact, an allergy is just simply an abnormal reaction. And my abnormal reaction is that I want more. That's it. That's all it is. My abnormal or allergy reaction is allergic reaction is I want more. I have to have more. And the doctor, who, by the way, in the 30s, the fact that he put this in writing is crazy, because doctors didn't do that. So, for example, a few years ago when they were talking about legalizing marijuana, okay, just for an example, a lot of doctors were like, no, that's garbage, right? But today they're actively prescribing CBD and all sorts of stuff. I'm not saying that's good for people like us, but that's become more of a reality across the world, right? People start to buy in it. For chiropractic, a better example. The doctors would steer you away from chiropractic, so they're bone crunchers. You know, that's no good. But today, it's very well accepted, right? Back in the 30s, a doctor speaking about alcoholism and drug addiction was, you know, and the fact that he believed it a physical allergy or a problem was unheard of. And he really was taking a risk at buying into that and putting that in writing. So the fact that he worked his whole life in this field and then decided to maybe throw it all away by taking a chance and writing this letter is pretty exceptional. This book had to be pretty exceptional. The cases that he saw Bill Wilson working with and people sobering up and their lives recovering had to be profound enough for a doctor to want to take a chance at ruining his career. You see what I'm saying?
Well, let me add in there. Until 1955, they didn't have Dr. Silkworth in the doctor's opinion. So in the first 2 editions, it didn't even say yours truly, Dr. William D. Silkworth, because he did not want to risk his career overwriting such a letter. So it was anonymous. But in 1955, when the American Medical Association deemed alcoholism as a disease, that's when they put it in.
Thank you. I get to learn tonight too. This is awesome. But yeah, it's pretty profound. It's pretty profound. I love how he talks about working through a solution on a spiritual as well as altruistic plane. Does everyone know what altruism is? It's an act of unselfishness, right? It's to be unselfish. And that is pretty much the whole life that I live today, is about giving and being of service to others. And that is what this Design for Living has given me. But how do we get there? And then it starts to talk about that. probably got to sober up. I probably got to detox, and my mind won't be, it's not going to work unless my brain's cleared of the alcohol for a little while, right? I mean, it's giving us very specific direction on how to proceed. He goes on to write about the paramount importance. And I love that. I always say to my sponsees, what does paramount importance mean? And I don't even know how to describe it. I just look at them and I say, it's really fucking important, right? It's really, really important that, that we get into this book, because it can save our life. Then he goes on to admit that they've been working at moral psychology. Does anyone know what moral psychology is? Bill touched on psychology earlier. Moral psychology is just a stem of that. Does anyone know what that is? Yeah, and right decision making. Yeah. They work on changing the way that we think in order so that we can make right decisions. But as you probably know, that's not as easy as it seems to be for these doctors, for us alcoholics, right? A complete psychic change is something that I chased for 27 years and then some. I finally sobered up, but believe me when I tell you that my complete psychic change didn't happen in the first year of sobriety. So I love that he talks about that. I'm getting a little sidetracked, so I'm gonna let you take over here, Bill.
Okay.
I got a little.
It's all good, my brother. Okay, I'm going to hash out a couple other things here. Doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. Page XXVII, 3/4 of the way down. As laymen, our opinion to its soundness may, of course, mean little. But as ex-problem drinkers, we can say that his explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which I could not otherwise account. So as laymen, as scientists, as people who study something, as these laymen, our soundness to this means little. How do you prove that? Well, you can't really prove it in the scientific sense, right? But as an ex-problem drinker, when my sponsor explained what happened to him when he put the drink or the drug in him, it explained many things to me that I couldn't otherwise account. I thought I was just fucked. Thought I was broken. I thought I was a piece of shit. I thought many things that weren't good about myself. Part of what I learned in this program, and I touched on it earlier, I do not have the power to say no to the first one. But I thought that I chose the drink. I didn't choose the drink. If I've crossed the line as an alcoholic and an addict, I don't choose the drink or the drug. But it looks like I do. So then I think I do. And then I take it and I set off the allergy, and then I'm gone on the allergy. The allergy is like, now I don't have control when I stop. And then I go for a day, a week, months, maybe years. I'm gone on the allergy to alcohol. And then I guilt and shame myself because every time I put it in my body, I think I'm doing it because I'm letting myself down. I'm letting everybody else down. I'm hurting all my loved ones because I think I'm picking up the drink. As an alcoholic addict, I do not pick up the drink. The drink picks me up. But if I put it in my body, all bets are off. How do we not put it on our body? We have to understand the spiritual malady, self, restless, irritable discontent, which will come later in this. But as my sponsor, who I met at a speaker meeting, he spoke, he told my story. It was exactly like mine. The only difference was it wasn't my story. But his feelings and his emotions and his inability to say no to the first drink or drug, that was exactly me. So he explained many things for which I could not otherwise account. Why do we not see this method of recovery in mainstream society? Because it's not scientifically proven. Everywhere you look on social media, you will see evidence-based, evidence-based, evidence-based. I'm going experience-based, man. Evidence-based ain't fucking everything, man. There's a lot of value in it, but they can't prove the allergy. Well, I can prove the allergy through all the people I've worked with. Gilbert can prove the allergy because he was living on the streets with the allergy for fucking years. Right? Who else can prove the allergy? Pretty much everyone in here can prove the allergy is fucking real. But they're not telling you that when you go to the psychologist or psychiatrist or to the hospital. They're telling you things that aren't you. So it's like a whole bunch of bunk lies to you. And they're saying, well, if you just don't drink again, life's going to be better. Just don't pick up the meth pipe again and life's going to be better. Oh, yeah, okay. Give you all that bunk information and then you leave and go pick up the meth pipe because you don't have the power to say fucking no, man. Understanding that's massively important, right? And we'll get to that. This is fucking the most important piece of the big book right here. One of them. Though we work out our solution. I have a spiritual sickness that requires a spiritual solution. But I also have a substance that I need to put down. Both of these are conquered by the sentence. Though we work out our solution on the spiritual and altruistic plane. Anyone know what altruistic actually means by definition?
Unselfishly devoting oneself to the happiness and well-being of another.
Pretty fucking close, Chris. Thank you. It's let's see if I can read it here. Unselfishly devoting oneself to the welfare, happiness, and well-being of others. Again, unselfishly devoting yourself to the well-being and happiness of other people. How do we get to altruistic? Just because you do a couple nice things for somebody doesn't make it fucking altruism, as per the definition. But you got to start somewhere, so do a couple nice things for somebody, even though the motive might be selfish. To get to the point where you're doing it unselfishly only happens by doing it consistently down the road. So how did that work in my life? And I'm not saying everything I do all the time is altruistic, but a lot of what I do believe is altruistic as per the definition. But when I look at the trajectory of my recovery, when I first was told to start sponsoring and start chairing meetings and making some coffee, I did it fucking grudgingly. Like, fuck off. Why should I do that? Well, I listened to my sponsor and I did it anyway. Why did I do it? Because I didn't want to fucking die. I wanted to live. So the motivation was very selfish, but I did it anyway. And then I did it anyway. And then I did it anyway. And then I get to, I'm going to say 3 years into my recovery. And I'm sponsoring. And I started realizing when I felt like a bag of shit, going to help somebody else helped me out. So I'm going to feel like a bag of shit. I'm not going to help anybody. I'm going to act in self for a few days because I don't even understand it at that point in my recovery. So I'm acting in self. I'm creating the restless, irritable discontent. I can feel the angst, the anxiety, the fear. And I'm like, what it's always helped me? I have 3 years of data. Go help somebody. Don't call Hector. Hey, bud, you want to do some reading? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure. So I go help him. And then I feel better. But it's still not altruistic as per the definition. But it's way more altruistic than it was 3 years earlier. So then I keep doing it. I keep doing it. I keep doing it. I keep doing it. And then later, as you keep doing this stuff, you just do it because it's the right thing to do. You do it without reservation. You work in love without reservation. That's the biggest difference between step 6 and 7. 6 is I'm still wondering what I'm going to lose. What am I not going to get? 7 is I'm surrendering. You need my help. Here it is. So the altruistic plane is almost more important in the sentence than the spiritual. Because as you work altruistically, it's almost a guarantee that the spiritual is coming along. But most people will focus on the spiritual. What does that look like? Oh, I'm going to pray. I'm going to meditate. I'm not going to help anyone else, though. So we get it backwards. Or we do the easier, softer way. Let's just pray. Let's just meditate. Let's do another set of steps because I feel like shit. I've done 6 sets of steps in 2 years. doing the steps can become very selfish because all you want is what you want and you want to feel better.
Relief. Yeah.
Relief. That's why I always say, Vern, go fucking sponsor someone. Enough of this shit. Right? Or whoever it is. And my buddy Jesse's a stickler on that. Guys come to him after, a year sober, and they're like, I need to do another set of steps. He's like, are you sponsoring? They're like, no. He's like, get sponsoring. And then we'll do another set of steps. He doesn't even have any wiggle room in that shit, right? Because sponsoring solves a lot of the problems that we have on the anxiousness, the irritability, all the things. But it does interrupt your pleasures. It has to be strenuous. You're not going to have everything your way. It takes a lot of effort to do the altruistic stuff. Right? Do you think I wanted to come here 3 times in the last week and do dry runs and set this up when I have a billion things to fucking do? No. But where was I? Here with these guys setting this up for you guys. But I love doing it too. Any add-ons?
Oh, I absolutely love that. Thanks. I lost my train of thought there. I'm so glad that I did, because you got right into that. I mean, this thing is, I just literally said that to a sponsee on Tuesday. I work with guys 3 nights a week right now. It's not always the way it is, because you know what? I've got a life. I've got a wife. I've got kids. I've got a job. I run a company. I also do this, and I have to go to my own meetings, right? And life's a balancing act sometimes, and I'm not sure there's any such thing as balance, but some things take more exception. I kind of go where I am shown. But I'll tell you right now, if you don't believe it, try it. One day you wake up and you're in a moment and you recognize that you're helping other people without even realizing you're doing it. And you've improved people's lives. And I'm not talking about sponsees. Like I run a company, I have employees that work for me, and I've improved their lives. And God has improved their lives through me. I'm not trying to be arrogant here, but I recognize that I had been helpful to these people, and it improved their lives just by spending time with them and by teaching them to be kind. And it doesn't have to be, well, it does have to be addicts and alcoholics for us, but it will move into more than that the more we do it. And then one day we recognize that it's working. And man, I have never felt a gift like that in my life before. I've never felt that gift before. And when I did, well, back to selfishness, because I wanted to feel it again. It was pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
Okay, I want to touch on something in regards to this altruistic stuff. Okay. If you could flip to page 93 and working with others chapter 7. On page 93, about 3/4 of the way down the page, you're going to see a line that says he may be an example of the truth that faith alone is insufficient. It's mostly the next line that I want to read. To be vital, faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish constructive action. To be vital. The word vitality, vital comes from vitality. Vital means 2 things, very important, but when you extrapolate the word vital to vitality, means giving of life. So to be vital, to give you life, faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish constructive action. So the unselfish constructive action is what everybody does in the programs. Help, help, help. But part of the altruistic action is understanding self and being altruistic in the moment. So instead of me hitting on a newcomer and getting what I want, and it could be easily done, right? In that moment, if I practice this program and understand self, I can altruistically in my mind, be giving that up for the happiness and well-being of her and her journey. So I practice altruism in the moment. And when I remove enough self out of the way through the processes in the book, my selfishness, my wounds of wanting what I want and throwing away what she might want or what I'm going to do to affect her, and I can be altruistic in that moment, which is step 6 type stuff, step 10 type stuff. I'm actually clearing this channel so that my altruism, the unselfish constructive action, comes naturally. So just quickly on a step 10, if you work step 10 properly, you can access power unlimited in the 11, and 12 is service, right? So you become of service without trying. Because in the 10, you are removing selfishness. You are removing self-pity, dishonesty, the fear. You are dealing with it in the moment, and you're not getting what you want in many instances. And that is also altruism. And then you can access a whole different sort of power in the 11 because you've removed the blocks of self. And then the natural path for a human is to serve God, to serve his kids. And that's what the 10 and 11 allow you to do, because we've been designed by Creator to serve each other and Creator, but we've been conditioned by society and our traumas and our wounds to serve ourselves. And that's what blocks us. So that altruism thing is massive.
I also want to point out that it's unselfish constructive action, right? It's basically reconfirming exactly what Bill said. Faith alone, it's insufficient.
Yeah.
It's insufficient. We have to act.
Yes. Just to Gord's point. The concept of faith, the idea of God. Oh, I pray every night and God help me and save me and fucking keep me sober. Good fucking luck. Good luck. Serious shit, man. It has to be followed by unselfish constructive action. The directions, precisely. As we follow the processes. Step 10 is a big process. Step 6 is a theory. But theories worked in the 10. Step 10 is mostly step 6, but it turns into a step 7. That's confusing right now, but as you stay with the study, that'll make sense. And the fucking lights will go off and you'll be like, holy fuck. Hope I'm not swearing too much. Anyone offended?
I thought he'd really improved. I don't know about you.
Okay, I'm going to finish off this page XXVII on the doctor's opinion that Gord read. Subject presented in the book seemed to me be of paramount importance, those afflicted with alcoholic addiction. Anyone in here feel like they are afflicted with the alcoholic addiction, drug addiction? Then this book just became of paramount importance to you. Serious shit. I say this after many years as director of one of those hospitals. There he is again, giving you the qualifications. His whole life, his whole career has been dedicated to serving us. His whole life has been dedicated to serving us. Skip a paragraph. We doctors have realized for a long time. What doctors? Well, he's one of the head doctors of the medical fraternity in all of North America. Those doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology was of urgent importance to alcoholics, but this application presented difficulties beyond our conception. What he's saying is, we knew that something needed to be changed in the minds of these alcoholics. There needed to be some type of rearrangement, but we don't know how to do it. They didn't know how to do it. All the doctors knew that something needed to be changed within us, some type of moral psychology, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. They didn't know how to fucking do it. So what did they do with us? Lobotomies, put us in psych wards, fucking kill us, put us on the streets. There was no help for us. That's why the doctor's opinion is so important. What with our ultra modern standards, all the science, our scientific approach to everything, the doctor is saying we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of anyone.
Good.
Good. What's he really saying? God. He's a doctor. He's a scientist. He's not going to write God in his doctor's opinion. Okay. So we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of God that lie outside of their synthetic knowledge. He's been watching us and he sees Bill W. come in and do this thing, and it's all based on this higher power. And he says they don't know how to do that. Many years ago, Bill W., this is the second part of what I said earlier that was going to reiterate itself. Bill W., leading contributor to this book, came under care in our hospital. So there he is again, back in the hospital. It's the same story, just worded differently. And while here, he had acquired those ideas, some ideas. Oxford Group, Dr. Silkworth's allergy concepts. And he put into what kind of application? Anyone? Practical. What the fuck does that mean? Action. Exactly. Thank you.
Worthwhile action.
Action, man. Practical application, processes, directions. Later, he requested the privilege of being allowed to tell his story to other patients here. And with some misgiving, we consented. So Bill W.'s like, okay, guys, I want to come in here and I want to share what I put together and try to help these alcoholics. And this is what I want to do. And the doctor's like, dude, you're just a fucking drunk. We're not going to let you do that. He's like, come on, man. I think I got something here. But back in 1939, the doctors got together and they huddled together and they're like, okay, let's give him a chance. Right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this guy.
Yeah.
And then they did. They consented. And then what does the doctor write? Remember, he's the head of medical fraternity, basically, of North America. The cases we had followed, though, had been most interesting. So they're watching this guy and they're like, look at this. Look at this guy. Look what he's doing. In fact, many of them are fucking what? Amazing. The doctors are saying this, man, about Bill W. doing what we're doing right here. The unselfishness of these men, as we have come to know them, the entire absence of profit motive, and their community and spirit is indeed inspiring. To who? All these doctors who have labored long and wearily, trying to fix us and help us and be discouraged and put their hands up and go, I don't know what to do with these fuckers. And then what? They believe in themselves. And they believe more in the power which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. I believe in myself today. I really believe in myself today because of what the program and the big book has done to my life. But I believe way more in the power that pulled me back from the gates of death. That's what Vern was saying earlier. I believe in myself today. And when I start taking the reins in my life today, I start feeling worse about myself. So I have to go back to the source, back to the power. Because when I have the power, I can believe in myself and I can have real self-esteem. But when I rely on my own self-reliance, I slowly deteriorate, and then I'm back in the malady on self, and then boom, fucking I'm drunk again. Because I don't have the power to say no. Even though I might remember at certain times what's going to happen, the book will tell me later that I can't bring that to my mind in a certain moment. Even though my kids are going to hurt and I have all these reasons why I shouldn't drink, and those might keep me backed off it for a little bit. But whatever you resist persists. So having God in our lives, working a practical application, you're not resisting because you're healing through the process of the steps and you're letting the shit go that you're resisting internally. And if you let the things go that you're resisting internally and you bring God in, then you don't have a problem with drugs or alcohol. And you were looking for fucking God, the God dope, when you were taking drugs and alcohol anyway. But you don't know it till you get a hit of the God dope.
Just like we don't know that it's a privilege to work with another alcoholic. I always tell my sponsees, it's a privilege for me to work with you because I get to learn more about me. I get to become a better human being by being selfless. I get to enjoy the fruits of being sober and living a life of recovery. And that is a privilege. It's a privilege. I love that word there. He asked us for the privilege. It might mean something different the way he wrote it, but the way that I read it is it's grace. That's what it is for me, is grace.
Okay, let's keep going. Okay, I'm going to read bottom of the page. Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. Heavy drinker, moderate drinker do not have the allergy to alcohol or drugs. Only we do. That is one thing that differentiates us and sets us apart. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol or drugs in any form at all, ever again. Once having formed the habit and they found they cannot break it, and once having lost their self-confidence and reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. Anyone know what that means? Go ahead. Say that. Okay, he's bang on. Your kids, your family, people begging you to stop, your boss. Just stop, please, I love you. Don't do this. You're going to lose your job. I'm going to fire you. Whatever the reason is, that frothy emotional appeal will not keep us sober. We'll drink again after that, and then we'll create more guilt and shame, which is another reason why I need to drink and use more. The message which can interest, very important, the message that can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. Depth is experience in the illness. Weight is I have something working for me. The reason why most people are here is because for whatever reason, you know Gord or I, and you know that we are like you. That's the depth. You know we're alcoholics and addicts based on whatever you've seen or known of us, but you also know we're living on a different footing, which is the weight. So the alcoholic, to hold interest of somebody out there, a new guy you're working on or whatever, you start with the depth of the disease, how you couldn't stop, what your feelings are, all that stuff, and then you shift it to some weight, right? And we'll go way more over that in the chapter working with others. But in nearly all cases, again, the doctor's saying this himself, in nearly all cases, so it's not every single case, but I'm going to say like 98, 99%, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to what? Recreate their life. This isn't about your old life back, man. This isn't about getting back to the way you used to be. Although you can go that way and start that way. This is about recreating a new life. You know, in step 3 where it says we were reborn, I hated that. But what happened after like a couple years in the program and working the altruistic action, trying to understand self, doing all the things that the recipe is, that the program is, I felt like I had another chance at life. And the way that I described it was, I lived my life the way that I wanted to live it for many years, and I hurt a lot of people, and it didn't go so well. And then I got this gift of recovery and what was in this book, and now the gift back to God was I was going to live my life how he wanted me to. And that is my gift back to God, because he gave me 2 chances in this life. So I got a different life. And the journey of this different life pissed off my kids, my ex-wife, through the change of me changing, they were like, who the fuck are you? And so a lot of things had to change. But we'll get into that later in the steps as well. And so I'm just going to quickly run down. Oh, yeah, I'm reading a full new set of stuff here. Okay, sorry. If any feel a psychiatrist directing at a hospital for alcoholics, we appear somewhat sentimental. Let them stand with us on the firing line. See the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become part of their daily work and even of their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. We feel after many years' experience, the doctors again, that we have found nothing. The doctors, man. They have found nothing, which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them, known as 12-step fellowship. Whatever fellowship it is that you're in, using the big book mostly, in my opinion, that's what they're talking about. Oh, fuck. This is the deadliest shit right here. Right. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first? Okay, so we got about 15 minutes. This is perfect timing. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after time differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, discontented, unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort that comes at once by taking the first few drinks that they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, the phenomenon of craving develops. They pass through the well-known stages of the spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over and fucking over. Unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. So I'll start at the end. Unless an alcoholic can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. Meaning, I have to see myself differently. I have to see you differently. And I have to see God's universe, the world differently. And if I don't see it differently, my brain's already wired to get the relief that I need from the way that it already sees everything. So it will always go, I'm restless, irritable, discontent. I need relief. I need it now. What's always giving it to me? Boom. I got a drink. I got a drug in my hand. Because it needs relief so bad. And at a certain point, it won't even remember all the harm and hurt and whatever it is that I cause when I go on a spree. Because I need it so bad. And that's why I say the drink takes me. But if I don't have a psychic change, I will drink and use again. Back to the start of the paragraph. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. Okay, my own experience. Yeah, I like the effect. And maybe I wasn't even alcoholic right at the start. Maybe I didn't have the allergy. The thing about the allergy in this disease is it doesn't really matter how you got it, where it came from, fucking genetic, fucking whatever. Doesn't matter. You go through step one, you'll know if you got it. The important thing is we got a solution for you. But you won't really know that till you go through all of step one, right? So I like the effect produced by alcohol and drugs. When I was 14, made me feel free, kind of took the weight of being a teenager off me. I was kind of shy, so I had a tough time chatting with girls. So a drink loosened me up. And then I even got laid my first time drunk. So it did a lot of things. And when you think of the step 9 promises, that's what the step 9 promises did for me with alcohol. I intuitively knew how to handle situations that used to baffle me. I could fucking wheel you and get laid. That used to baffle me, right? Whatever it is, right? Those step 9 promises were kind of what I was like when I was drinking when I was young. So I like the effect produced. Then I get a little older, 18, 19 years old. Maybe it's not quite the same as when I was younger, but I still get a little bit of euphoria. I like the camaraderie with my bros, but it's getting me in some scrapes and it's getting me in trouble. Later down the road, like in my late 20s or early 30s, now it's starting, I got kids now and I got a business and I got a wife. And so it kind of blocks things off and it takes the edge off. So it gives me a different experience with it, but I still like the effect that it produced because it worked for me. But then later in my, like when 36, 37, when I was smoking crack like a madman, it just blotted everything out. And I liked the effect that it produced because it just took everything away from me, out of my mind. So it didn't matter where on my journey, men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced. And the effect produced may be different as time goes on. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit is injurious, the sensation that I get when alcohol worked or drugs worked is now elusive. What does elusive mean? It's hard to find. I always kind of say it like this. It's like you ever try to catch a chicken? Good luck. That's the feeling that I need out of alcohol and drugs now. It's like me trying to catch a chicken. I'm running all over the yard trying to catch this chicken, but all I ever get is a few feathers. Because the sensation that I'm looking for when it worked for me is now elusive. Although I admit it is injurious, which means I know that it's bad for me. But I need that sensation. But it's bad for me, so I keep trying to catch this chicken. I keep dabbling with the drink and the drug, trying to get that feeling that I'll never get because it doesn't work anymore. Although they admit it is injurious, they cannot after time differentiate true from the false. I can't say no. I can't. I don't have enough truth in me to know that it's really bad, and I can't differentiate true from the false. I'm going to pick it up, even though I know better. Their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, discontented. Restless, irritable, discontented. I'm going to give you a bunch of different aspects here that all mean the same thing, and it's very important to know this as you go through the study. Restless, irritable, discontent is the same as self and is the same as the spiritual malady. They're all the same thing. So if you hear spiritual malady, it's the same thing as saying self. Self is the same thing as saying restless, irritable, discontent. They're all the same. And primarily I'll use self. At least I will. So I'm restless, irritable, discontent. I'm not comfortable in my own skin. Life's piling up on me. I don't really know. I got anxiety. I have fear. I have like depression. I have all these things going on, whatever it is for you. Unless they can again experience a sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking the first few drinks. So for me, when I go to catch that chicken, I can grab it and I get the handful of feathers. And all I really get is the ease and comfort that come at once by taking the first few drinks. You alcoholics and addicts in this room and on the screen, you guys know, even today, if you did take the first drink or two or hoot or two, you would feel a sense of ease and comfort that came at once. But by the third or the fourth, you know you're fucked, and you will go on, and you will use out of guilt and shame probably until till you're arrested or you run out of money or whatever, right? So you will, which comes out once by taking the first few drinks that they see others taking with impunity after they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do. Anyone know what succumbed means?
Failed to resist.
Give in. Okay. Fail to resist is what its definition is. As you fail to resist because you are living in restless, irritable discontent, you do not have the power to choose, and you will succumb to the desire, fail to resist, because your brain needs the ease and comfort that comes at once so fucking bad. But the problem with us is you have now set off an allergy. You are no longer drinking to escape the mind. You are now drinking to overcome a physical craving in your body that supersedes the mind. Your head could be cut off and you're going to keep dumping shit down your throat because you don't have the power to say no with the mind. The body is now in control, which is why when you went to have one beer, you had 100. You went to have one little hit a crack to take the edge off. Chris is laughing. And like 3 months later, when you're homeless, fucking eating out of a dumpster, you're like, fuck that one who wasn't worth it, right? As so many do. And then it says here, as you succumb to the desire, boom, the phenomenon of craving develops, which is the allergy. Phenomenon of craving. Phenomenon means unexplainable. It's hard to explain. It's not science proof. It's a phenomenon. Why does it happen? I don't fucking know. But I know, because I've seen it so much, that it does happen. So they pass through the well-known stages of the spree. You take it in you, you go on the spree, and now you're off on the spree. Emerging remorseful. Finally, you stop, and the guilt and the shame, you emerge remorseful. And then what does it say? With a firm resolution not to do it again. I'm fucking done. I've had enough of doing this to myself and my family. I'm done. And then what? This is repeated over and over and fucking over. Unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, they're going to keep doing the same fucking thing. And what this is called the alcoholic cycle. This is one of the most important things to understand in this big book study is this alcoholic cycle. And I'm going to take it a little bit different spot right now. Because when you're restless, irritable, discontent, and you reach out for porn because you get a sense of ease and comfort out of pornography, or you reach out to another relationship, even though you have no business being in a relationship, because you're powerless over swiping right. You're powerless over Tinder. You're powerless over anger. You're powerless over pornography. You're powerless over going to the casino and gambling. You're powerless over all these things that you need fucking relief from. And if you act out in those things enough, you will pick up a drink again. But as we succumb to the desire again, being powerless in all these defects of character, okay? We go on the spree of porn, we go on the spree of relationships, we go on the spree of sex, whatever it is, and then it doesn't work out. You emerge remorseful, and you're like, I'm not getting in another relationship. I'm going to stay single. And then a fucking 2 weeks later, you're back in a relationship. Because you're restless, irritable, discontent, and your ego needs something to relieve itself. And unless you can have an entire psychic change in the areas within your defective character, there is very little hope for you to change your emotional state of sobriety. Which is why this program is designed so perfectly if you follow the directions. Because the directions combat self. They combat the malady. And to me, ego is any thought or action that is absent of love. It's fear. Always fear. And when you look, whatever you put in the alcoholic cycle, whatever you succumb to, there's always a sense of power and control. In porn, when you watch porn, it's like, I'm that guy. She's mine. I'm fucking controlling her. Power and control. You know, anger. You don't have any power over your anger. Power and control. Self-pity, or not wanting to confront somebody and being non-confrontational. You think you're fucking controlling the situation. So all the things that we'll put in there ego-based have a sense of power and control, but it's false sense of power and control. Why we need God is because we put God in the alcoholic cycle in those moments, which will come later in the study, and God can combat those things, and it slowly changes us, and we get the psychic change. And that is the practical application. That is the directions. That is the processes. And through that, we have a psychic change. Gord said it didn't happen in a year. Doesn't fucking happen in a year. A good chunk of it can happen in 3 months. but it takes consistent, persistent commitment to change. And the best way to do it is through the altruistic action, adding that spiritual component in there. That's all I got for now.
Has anyone here studied math? I mean, I'm terrible at it, but have you studied math? Do you know how to get good at math? Repetition, exactly. Repetition. I followed lots of directions, but gave up on them weeks later, and nothing changed, or it fell apart. This is excellent directions, but until I'm able to change the way that I think and behave, it's just theory. And I wanted it really bad, selfishly, because when I sobered up, like, and you heard it, 27 years I was in and out of this program, but I'm going to tell you that I never completed a single set of steps in all of those years. So relapse is not a part of this. Relapse is a part of my story, big part of my story. I could tell you all sorts of crazy stories about being in prison and being on Main and Hastings. And I could also tell you stories about raising a family and deciding to forward my life with self-will and self-knowledge. And that worked for a lot of years, but eventually failed. And until I actually bought into this through pain and absolutely no other option, I wasn't able to even begin to change the way that I think and behave. And when I did the steps, I started changing. I really wanted it this last time. But you know what? I was going to 3 meetings a day, sometimes 4. I was surrounding myself with good people, and those are all really good things. But it was still just me trying to fill my addiction. It was still just me selfishly trying to change the way that I felt because I didn't know any better. I was still wrapped up in self. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying that going to a few meetings a day is a bad idea, because let me tell you something. It got me through the first year. It really did. I couldn't get a job for 3 years. My mother-in-law died in the first year. My kid, for the first 9 months of recovery, wouldn't even hear my amends, like didn't want to have anything to do with it, right? I mean, I suffered for a few years, but it humbled me. And through time, I started changing the way that I thought, a little bit at a time. I gave my entire life to God, except for my financial success. And because I was successful at one time in my life, very successful. And I thought I could do this again. I'd go to this guy's office and bitch and complain about why I barely make my bills. And finally one day, I was 3 years sober, and he said to me, "Sounds like a lot of me. And I was shocked. I went out to my truck and I said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry, God. I didn't even realize I was doing it." And I said, "I don't care if you need me to be poor for the rest of my life. I don't think that's what you want. I hope it isn't, but if that's what you need from me, then so be it," right? Because look at the rest of my life. It's far greater than it was 3 years ago. And I gave it all to God, and my life changed, and I started changing the way that I thought. And my life started catapulting, and my actions started becoming more altruistic. And eventually, my brain works differently today. I don't know when it happened. I can't honestly tell you when it happened, but I recognized it at one point, and it was pretty cool. You know, it was pretty cool. But I surrounded myself with positive people, and that was a start. That was a very, very important start.
People that didn't co-sign is fucking bullshit.
That's right. And people that talked about this design for living every single day I talked to them. And I started realizing through what it did for them, what it could maybe do for me. You know, I talk about this a lot about, you know, whenever I do a speaking engagement, I talk about time machines, and I wish I had one. I wish I could put you all in my time machine, you know, especially the guys that are suffering right now, you know, like, oh, shaking her out 3 days sober. I wish I could take you 5 or 10 years in the future and show you what your life could be like if you stayed sober and clean and bought into this shit. But I can't. So I have to be the time machine. I have to show you what it looks like 8 years later in my life. Complete psychic change has changed me on a level I don't even fully know how to explain to people. It's different. It's I have a beautiful life today, but I still suffer with a spiritual malady. Isn't that something? I just have to continue to fill it with God and you people. That'll never go away, I don't think. It's very important, though. Very important, because I don't want to repeat it over and over again anymore. I'm done being on the hamster wheel. And this is a good life. So I'll just stop.
Okay, so don't move. We're gonna pull the pin on this. I'd like to get somebody off of Zoom to say a prayer to shut us down. Julie, can you cue somebody up off of Zoom, or Tamara? Also, we're gonna need some help getting most of these tables downstairs and the chairs stacked back up. I might do a little bit of a mop here too. We'll kind of see what it looks like. But these are the kind of things that why I got you to put your name on that list for willing helpers, so we can get these tables from downstairs to upstairs before the study starts and get them back downstairs and blah, blah, blah. So
It's not totally why we talked about altruism, but hey, if it works, it works, right?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and if you like this session, you know, share it with your friends, spread the word, and if we have to set up more tables and whatever, we can and will, and you know, your feedback is always greatly appreciated, and we appreciate everybody coming.